All right, so we started the discussion last week about Lisha, and we said there's a machlokes in the Gemara if there is Lisha by something that is not bar gibul. You need to say something that does not stick together properly or not. Machlokes in Gemara, and a machlokes in halacha, how to paskin. Most paskin that it's not bar gibul, that it's not a Issa D'Oraisa, it's not a bar gibul, just an Issa D'Rabbanan. Some paskin that it is Issa D'Oraisa, even if it's not bar gibul. And then we had a strict opinion of Tosfos that is even stricter by a not bar gibul than by a bar gibul. And this relates to the machlokes Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina, and Rebbe. Which was Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina, not Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Just make sure I'm getting that right. Just give me a moment. Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Sorry, Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. So the machlokes between them is the Isser of Lisha made up of simply adding the water or whatever the liquid is to the to the things that are sticking together? That's Rebbe's opinion. As soon as you add it, that's already the Isser. Whereas according to Rebbe Yehuda, the Isser is the adding as well as the mixing. It's kind of two stages, kind of like the Hotzah and the Hanacha, Akira and Hanacha. So they're both aspects of the Malach. Not that it's mutter to add without mixing, but that the Isser of Lisha is completed only when you mix it. And that's Machlokes Rishonim, out of Paskin. If, like Rabbi Yehuda, that you're not chayiv until you do both, or like Rebbe, that you're chayiv as soon as you add. The nafka mina would be if you have to do a shinoi, because we're going to learn about doing lisha with the shinoi. So, so if it's so that's the thing. If it's a solid. If it's a solid, thick, not something that you pour. That's the only definition that I found. Not something that you pour. That's called the belila of a thick mixture. Then it's the D'Oraisa. If it's a belila raka, it's a thin mixture, then it's a Issa D'Rabbanan.
Adding coffee into water.
No, that's not even a belila raka. That's the same as water. There you don't even feel any thickness. That's not even lila raka. That's not considered lila b'chlal.
And preparing the formula for the baby.
Formula is the same thing. Rice cereal for a baby, that's already a lila. You could do it thicker, you could do it thin. But the cereal, the formula for a baby where it's completely liquid, like just looks like regular liquid, that's not called lila b'chlal. So there's other issues of bishul and whatever. You have to keep the other issues. We don't have to worry about it as far as this is concerned. So b'kitzer, if you hold that the halacha is like Rebbe, and the main isser is just by mixing it, so then it would be enough to do a shinoi just by the mixing of it. I'm saying just by the adding of it, I should say, by the adding of the liquid to the solid. Not necessary to do a mixture, to do a shinoi when you mix it. And on the contrary, if you do a shinoi when you mix it, it doesn't help because that's not the issa. I'm saying if you do the shinoi with the act of mixing as opposed to the act of pouring, that's not going to help because you already done the issa. Whereas you hold like Rabbi Yehuda, so then you have to do a shinoi by both. And the shinoi that you do by the mixing is important because that will minimize the melach. One other point that I made last week, that Tosfos says, and like I mentioned before, that according to Tosfos, if it's not bar gibul, it's even stricter than if it is bar gibul, because if it's not bar gibel, according to Tosfos, even Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, who normally says you have to mix it besides pouring it in order to be over, does not say that by something that's not bar gibel. Because not bar gibel, it doesn't really become one anyway. So just by adding the water, that's enough of the gibel, even according to his opinion. So that's just something to bear in mind. Ashes, for example, sand.
Oh, right. I asked that question also.
Right.
Something that can't be mushed together, but it'll be little particles with water.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that, can you explain that again?
Tosfos says that, again, it's machlokes if that's a deraisa or rabbanon. But if you hold it's a deraisa, Tosfos says, yeah.
It's not just water with things.
No. It's an isser. Question is, it's a deraisa or rabbanon. It definitely resembles
Can't put water on sand.
Can't put water on sand, no. Can't play in the sandbox, sorry. I know you want to.
Which Siman are we on?
I'm sorry?
Which Siman are we on?
Shin Chaf Aleph.
Thanks.
See if you dial it.
Play in sandbox, you just can't get water.
That's another machlokes.
Digging a ditch.
Yeah. That's another machlokes, but it could be that you can because the sandbox is maybe meyuchad for playing. So just like Lego and all that sort of thing. Even if it's what?
It's not a touch the product. It's not. It's a hand slap or
I'll be on more, so no?
maybe like a kill.
They're asking if then it's a problem.
But playing with the sand.
Maybe it's then for sure not koina, you're saying. I don't know. Not sure. Could be. Could be it's not mechubal karka, so it's not important in terms of binyan or anything. I don't know. So, no further ado, let us learn Yudalid. Amy Goblin. I think we started it. I don't know if we finished it though.
I think we didn't do that already. We did it in the Chabad.
Did we do them already?
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's review it briefly. Right. So let's review it briefly. The Mechaber said that you cannot make a small amount of kemach kali because you might end up making a large amount. Now, the point is, kemach kali is after they roast the grain, they then grind it, and the resulting pieces are bigger than regular flour, and it doesn't produce a bar gibel. Produces a mix that's not considered a bar gibel. I guess the pieces are too big. I'm sorry? I guess, yeah. So it's enough to do a shinoi of ma'at. And there's two interesting opinions about why it's mutter to do with ma'at. If you say that it's that you're not chayiv in a bar gibel, right? That you're not chayiv if it's not bar gibel, right? That if it doesn't mix well, you're not chayiv. So the ma'at is like a double shinui. Exactly, but it's enough to do a small shinui of ma'at, a small amount. That's it. However, according to the opinion that says that you're chayiv on even though it's not bar gibel, so what's the heter of doing ma'at? How could it be mutter? Do it iser da'iraisa and ma'at. I mean that's a chatzi shir. That's also min haTorah. What's the heter? I'm saying if you hold that even on not bar gibel, it's still chayiv in da'iraisa. Right? It's machlokes. Some Rishonim asking that it is. And still, the Gemara says that ma'at is okay. How do they learn pshat? No, ma'at on not bar gibel, on this kemach kali.
So don't say about cable, but the other people,
It says they can do kemach koli ma'at ma'at.
But you say Kemakela is not the bar gibel.
Exactly.
So, but Al-Dibra is a bar gibel, then says you're allowed to do it.
Exactly. If it's not bar gibel, it doesn't say that. If it is bar gibel, excuse me. If it is bar gibel.
It didn't say anything about that.
No, can't.
Only not bar gibel.
Correct. So what's the pshat? If you hold that bar gibel is chayim midaraisa, so why would you be allowed to do ma'at ma'at? You can't do any malacha. Ma'at ma'at. So Mishnah Berurah says, interesting chiddush, he says that because kemach koli is edible as is, you can eat it. They used to eat roast grain. So because it's edible as is, if you mix a small amount of it, it might be considered derech achila. Excuse me. Yes? Hello? Anybody? It might be considered derech achila. That's the Mishnah Berurah's chiddush. And perhaps the reason why ma'at ma'at is mutter. No, kemach is definitely not bar gibel. But they hold that not bar gibel is chayiv also. So what's the heter of doing it ma'at ma'at? So the Mishnah Berurah says, nice chiddush, that because it's edible, so maybe it's not considered a malacha, it's considered a derech achila. Nobody says it's bar gibel. Kemach koli is not bar gibel. Where are you reading? Where? Where? What? Where? Where?
In the mem base. Because material like this shouldn't feel the sharp person is really like, oh, the kemach kali bar gibel. I have made a target should you.
So it's
Welcome down hey modud this shouldn't not sharp kemach kali.
Where are we in the Mishnah Berurah?
He's reading the Mishnah Berurah on base.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Where's Shin Chaf Aleph or Shin Chaf Beis?
Shin Chaf Aleph. Yeah, it brings it down. Yeah. According to the opinion that says that a thing that's bar gibel is chayev even by adding the liquid without mixing it. Okay, so I mean, here's the way he explains it. I'm not 100% sure about it, but here's what he's explaining. That according to Tosfos, that lav bar gibel is chayev according to all opinions as soon as you add it, even before you mix it. Exactly. So then kamach koli cannot be lav bar gibel, because then you'd be chayev just for pouring it in. And the fact that you're mixing it in small amounts wouldn't help you. Right?
So
again, there's two issues here.
What it also says about Kelly is in order that it's not bar gibel, it's bar gibel.
So he says it has to be a bar gibel.
According to Tosfos, it's a bar gibel.
Tosfos says it has to be considered bar gibel, because he says this is all the shita Tosfos, like we explained before. According to Tosfos, anything that is not bar gibel is chayev just for adding the water, mixing it, because it never really becomes.
What is bar?
Mixing it is not the issue.
So there's no point on the shino either.
So the shino is not going to help in the way you mix it. So therefore it can't be that it's a lav bar gibel, that it's a lav bar gibel. You're mixing it in something else. So what? You should be chayav as soon as you add the liquid and the solid.
Even so, that adding the liquid to the solid is already the shino.
Why is that a shino? No, I'm not talking about the order. I'm talking about changing the order.
No, but it's not like in the Siman, I said like you have to do it as a shino like that by adding the liquid into the.
No, that's the next case. In this case, he didn't mention doing it with the shino.
Make the difference between adding liquid to solid to liquid by adding it.
That is a shino that helps, but only if you do a belila raka. Only if you do a belila raka. Only if you do a loose mixture, which he's going to mention in a minute. Why does it not help by a belila ava? I'm not sure.
So you cannot add water slowly, because if you add water slowly, you're going to transfer belila kasha or the belila.
That's already a different question.
So you're going to have to add a lot of water in one shot.
That's already a different question. We're not up to there yet. We're just discussing belila ava. Belila ava, the shino that's mentioned, is to do it ma'at ma'at. Belila raka is a separate shinoi, and that has to be done together with changing the order. How do you add the water? Yeah, you add the water quickly. That's a separate
But
thing.
if it's belila kasha, it's not going to be easy to do it the opposite. First, after the liquid, then adding the
He
solid.
doesn't mention that as a shinoi here. So I'm not going to be the one to tell you.
Theoretically, it's going to be easy to reach belila raka if you first put in the water and then adding liquid, because the sequence is the texture. But if you put in solids first, then adding liquid, you're going to reach belila alpha before you're going to reach belila raka.
As long as you do it quickly, it doesn't make a difference.
The shiur, you reach the belila.
One shot.
Just pour it in. Just pour it in. If you do it slowly, it's a shaila. Do it quickly.
Has anyone actually tried doing it with roast flour?
Sorry?
This is all talking about roasted flour, right?
Yes.
Has anyone actually tried doing it?
Not me.
No, it's just that the whole discussion here seems to be about whether something fairly obvious happens or doesn't happen. If we take flour and roast it, can't we just see for ourselves what happens?
I mean, I don't know if it means roasted flour or if it means flour of roasted grain, which might not be as fine as regular flour. You know what I'm saying? I assume flour that is roasted, I mean, that's just roasted flour. That's going to be the same size particles. I don't see how I'm going to
It's not about the size of the particles. It's about whether the word that's here in the translation is whether it masses or not. I assume that means forms gluten strands. It turns into a mass. Either it sort of stays separate or it turns into a nice mass. So I guess surely we would just do it. I remember learning in Rambam once about roast flour, so I assume that we're talking about flour that's been roasted, not flour made from roasted. In this particular one, I assume we're talking about roasted flour, and it's translated here as unroasted flour, not flour from roasted grains.
I don't know. We could try both ways and see what happens. I don't know. Hard to say. Hard to make an experiment until you know exactly what it is, but it's theoretically possible.
So in Hilchos Pesach, the Rambam, because this is all coming from the Rambam, right?
This pshat in the Gemara is coming from the Rambam, yeah.
So I remember in Rambam in Hilchos Pesach was talking about roasted flour and how it doesn't become chometz, but we don't do it because we don't know how to roast flour particularly well nowadays.
Right, we're not sure that it roasts fully to such an extent that it won't become chometz. That's correct. There too, there is a discussion, if I'm not mistaken, if it's talking about roasted grain, which is then made into flour, or it's talking about roasted flour.
Okay.
That is a discussion there. I think it's machlokes, if I'm not mistaken, actually. I don't know if it's the same machlokes here or not, but I think it is machlokes over there. Machlokes or Shaina, maybe even. Okay, so the point is that Tosfos says that if you say that you're chayiv on a lav bar gibel just for adding the water, even before you mix it. So the fact that you're doing a shinui here of ma'at wouldn't help you. And therefore you have to say that this is a bar gibel, and that therefore you're not chayiv until you mix it. And that's why doing it ma'at is considered a shinui.
Basically, he wants to be metametz why the chemical is not going to be considered that actually it's not bar gibel.
No, he says it has to be a bar gibel. Tosfos says, if it would be a not bar gibel, then you would be chayiv as soon as you added the water, and a shinui in the way you mixed it wouldn't help. So therefore, he says, right, because Tosfos says that lav bar gibel is even stricter than bar gibel. That's what I mentioned in the beginning. Lav bar gibel is chayiv. No, it's machlokes or shoyin. It's machlokes or shoyin. If you say it's derabanan, okay, so of course it's more lenient. Some Rishonim say that it's asur b'deraisa also, and Tosfos says not only is it asur b'deraisa, but it's more strict, and then you chayiv just for adding the water even before you mix it. Based on that, Tosfos says you have to say that kamach kali is bar gibel, because otherwise making a shinui in the way you mix it doesn't help you, because you're chayiv just for adding it. So therefore, it must be it's bar gibel, and you're not really chayiv until you add it and then mix it. And because you're mixing it ma'at, that is considered a shinui.
Basically, by saying it is bar gibel, they actually give you leniency to be able to be made capable to add water. To see to do shinoi.
He's explaining what the shinoi helps. Yeah, that's what he's doing. Why does the shinoi help?
If it were holding that it's not bargibul, there's no shinoi by having war is nothing help.
According to him,
According to Tosfos.
according to Tosfos. Okay. However, sorry. Yeah, the beginning of Shema Yahweh. More used to the Bryce at the Mata Gibal de Shino al Kocha Vesmir de in Machabits in this mind. Tilav Hochi in these brackets. Tilav Hochi in the Sinus Mayam Lachayev, the Mrs. Mam Lashach Shino. Because we got on das Toisus, Beshabes, really the Blood by Gibal Kola Machabits in this mind. A Kocha can call by Gibal or to Gibal de Shino Matmat. That's what it is. All right. But then that same Biur Halacha goes ahead and explains. So what if it's Lav Bar Gibel? Sorry, if it's Bar Gimel, so you need to, so doing a Shinui by the mixing of it helps, but how is the Shinui of Ma'at helpful? What you're doing is doing Pachas Mikashir. Why is that a Shinui? That shouldn't be a Shinui. That's Pachas Mikashir, which is also in the Torah. And therefore he says that it means that it becomes derech achila. Because it's edible, and you're doing a small amount, which is normal to do for eating, so it becomes derech achila.
Mishnah Berurah writes,
The Biur Halacha.
no, the derech achila here is not part of the Mishnah.
No, just in the Biur Halacha.
I have another question. In general, the kibble of grain usually done in big quantity, correct?
I don't know. I mean, I assume, but I don't know why you ask. Well, each one will answer in their way. If you hold that it's not a bar gibul, so
No, it seems that it's bar gibul, usually done in big quantity. So why they allowed to do it in small quantity?
You're asking me about what? About kamach kali, yes?
No, this one is just going to be like, if kamach kali is going to be bar gibul, basically it's going to from it. It seems that it's bar gibul, you're allowed to do it b'shinoi.
No.
We cannot learn from it?
No. Mishnah Berurah explains.
But here, even though about the shlish ready, you can do it b'shin or not. So basically, it's about evil. So you learn from this Siman that basically since that it's about evil, you can do it b'shin or not. So I'm asking, why is they allowed to do the in small quantity when it seems that done in big quantity? Usually this was Israel, since done in big quantity, you shouldn't do it in small quantity. Shema, you can do it in big quantity. You answer my question?
No, I'm not makabel.
You understand? No,
You're saying that every bar gibul is the same. Mishnah Berurah doesn't say that.
They say the same. The people done in big quantity, no?
One more time. You're asking, why are you allowed to be megabel in small quantities? Why don't you make a gzeira that you might do it in big quantities? That's your question?
Yeah, because usually it's done in big quantity.
Okay, so
And we say that basically the gzeira, things that done in big quantities, you should do it in small quantity. Shema, you say in big quantity.
okay, so let's go backtrack for a minute. There's a machlokes here, like we just finished saying. What is a kamach kali? Is it bar gibul or not bar gibul? If it's not bar gibul, then the answer to your question is that it's gzeira l'gzeira, meaning to say it's anyway derabanan, and you're doing it in ma'at, so it's a double shinui. So why don't we make gzeira? Because gzeira l'gzeira, because even if you do a large amount, it would only be nesa derabanan. If you hold that it is a bar gibul, so then the Mishnah Berurah is explaining in the Biur Halacha, he explains The reason it's allowed is because it's considered derech achila. Kamach koli is edible. Even the next case of shlish is also shekalu oisa. B'chagav tochanu oisa, tchinagasa. You see that? So it's definitely something that's roasted. It's definitely edible grain. So therefore, he says it's considered derech achila. So once it's derech achila, I don't think we make that gzeira, because just like by boyer, why don't you say you shouldn't be allowed to take oichel metoch psoilas, because you may take psoilas tech oichel. It's very similar. No, Chazal wanted you to be able to eat, so they didn't make decrees in some cases. You know what I'm saying? We have it in many different examples. Tchina.
It's also considered derech achila.
Sorry.
Shtia, it's also considered derech achila.
What do you mean?
Something that you need to drink.
I mean, why not?
So why is can squeeze grapes? It's going to be derech achila. I want to squeeze it to drink.
No, you can't do a malacha to be able to do.
You're always making melacha of lisha. It's melacha also. You're doing it with shinu. So you're going to be shinu squeezing the wine. It's going to be my derech achila.
Is the question why do we have this kula generally?
No, he's asking why is derech achila permitting something that seems to be a malacha? You know, you can't do a malacha just to be able to eat. Obviously, he's not considering it a malacha. He's considering it the way of eating.
So,
let's read it together. If you have a Mishnah Berurah, look in Bir Halacha.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the Bir Halacha, about halfway down. I've got the translation. However, despite Nishmas Adam's assertions, it's clear that many Rishonim do consider kneading in small quantities. That one?
Further, where it says V'tama Dover, the reason for the matter. V'tama Heter, sorry, the reason for the Heter. A few lines down from where you're reading.
Yeah. Is that once the grain has already been roasted, it's edible as is. Hence, kneading them into a dough is not significant a necessary stage of food of that lush classically is. Yeah, that one.
Just 1 second. You have page Kufnon. Is that what you're on?
Okay.
Is that what you're on?
Could be on Kufnon.
I have page Kufnon, like the 20th line.
Okay.
It says it's similar to seasoning a dish.
Oh, let's read it. But Tama had the nearly the Dasatosis. The reason that there seems to be according to Tosis. Because they roasted the kloyos. By the way, Yossi, this By the way, Yossi, this seems to be talking about roasting the grain, right? You notice that?
Once the grain has, I see what you mean.
Actually, roasted grain. And they make it fit for eating. So it's like something that's been baked or roasted. And therefore, after you with me? Nah, it's either one. This sometimes means or. Right? You're not doing both. I mean, you're doing one or the other. Yeah. It's in the oven. Well, after even though by adding the water it becomes needed, this is not considered lisha. It's rather like fixing food, because that's considered the normal way to eat it. It's rather like liquid that you're adding to a dish. Sauce, thank you. Vein ze malacha deraisa, it's not a malacha deraisa. And therefore, it's enough to do a small heter, a small shinui of ma'at ma'at. Inami, another answer. Not just that you should do it a small amount, but you should do a small amount as you're eating. Because that's the way to eat it. Okay, that's already something else.
The guy says in the Mishnah that you should do less than you revived.
No, he takes that back.
What?
Takes that back.
Who takes that?
Mishnah Berurah.
What? Later on?
No, near the afilu yesh b'keshegor gas. Why do you say that? Afilu yesh b'keshegor gas. He adds a very important point from the Chazon Ish here. The Dirshu. It says the Chazon Ish says that Lisha does not apply to something that is ready to eat. As is. Lisha is only something that's
meaning that already done, the gibel to, or even the thing itself is available to eat before the water is put on. When it's available to eat.
Chazon Ish Kosov. Kol davar is bashal kol tzorke ein mishum losh. Anything that's already been cooked, there is no isser of lisha.
Meaning, even if the water will cause this to be a gush, since the first thing,
since it was already edible, it's not considered lisha. This bashal kol tzorke.
It's more than just.
Okay, yeah, but here you're doing a shinoi. Maybe if it would be in a special called tzorke, you wouldn't need it. Now it's already edible, so it's shinoi. It's enough to do a shinoi ktsas. That's a big chiddush.
So this kamach kali can be eaten raw, no?
It's not raw. It's been baked.
Eaten cooked, eaten roasted.
Yeah, sure.
So we go to
So it doesn't. The whole halacha goes out the window.
Why does it go out the window? He's explaining that.
As long as the melushal cold tzarka. Not considered melushal without water.
Let's say konzachon. The konzachon of is a
Dirshu.
What's the difference between lush and gibel?
Lush is kneading. Gibel is something that mixes and sticks together. So
lush is kneading specifically.
Yeah.
But don't we say that making mud is lush?
Yeah.
But that doesn't include the kneading. Is gibel part of the? I'm a bit confused as to how it works.
Give me a moment, somebody has a shayla here, make a shayla. Sorry. Natural pink from vegetable. Okay, sorry. That's coming up tonight. Yes, sorry. Let me answer your question. So, the expression of gibel and lav bar gibel means something that sticks together effectively and becomes one entity when you need it, or does not. Now, mud is an example of something that does become one entity when you need it, when you mix it. So if you make mud, you are over on lisha. Lisha is the malacha. Now, there's a machlokes if you're over as soon as you add the water to the dust to make the mud, or is it only if you actually mix it in with your hands or a spoon or something like that? That's a machlokes, but definitely there would be an issur d'oraisa by making mud, either just by adding the water or by mixing it. You with me?
Yeah. Sort of.
Go ahead with the question.
So lush is the action of kneading.
Yeah.
And gibel is the adding of liquid so that it becomes one mass.
Right. Gibel is making it into one mass.
Okay. So why is it that adding water to roast flour anyway would be lush? Wouldn't it be gibel? Or it doesn't become one mass. It just becomes.
We have a machlokes if it's gibel or not.
Yeah.
There seems to be a question about that. But I mean, it's definitely, the way we're saying it now, it's definitely not lush mid'oraisa. It's aser mid'arbanan, which is why it's allowed in a small amount. And that's what we're trying to figure out, why it's allowed in mid'arbanan, maybe because it's not bar gibel, or maybe because it's edible and therefore it's just the derech achila.
So if you add milk to cereal and you leave it there for half an hour, it becomes one mass.
That was my homework. I remember just before that I had homework. So I didn't do my homework yet.
Okay.
We'll have to leave it. I'm pretty sure I discussed it in this third non-malachas.
Or is that a derech achila thing that you don't expect to happen anyway? You don't usually leave it for half an hour.
Actually, if it's derech, according to Chazon Ish, I mean, it's totally edible.
According to Chazon Ish, the whole bottle goes away, no?
Why?
Because if it's nipasha, cold circle, adding water to it is not lush. It says, משום למה שיבשים הקלייס ותנו ועושים אותם שיהיו ראויים לאכילה וחושב כמו דבר שנפל ונתבשל.
Who says it's called tzorkoi? Maybe it's not called tzorkoi. Maybe it's only enough that it should be only osmer rabbanon.
So the shino,
yeah. The Mishnah Berurah says it, not me. Ein zo chashem loch l'rais, l'kachu d'mat mat, chashem l'ktzas shinoi. It's hard. It's difficult shaila.
Which one?
This question of why it's mutter, why it's considered derech achila. According to the Chazon Ish, it's simply because it's edible. But I don't know if that's so pasha. It's not pasha.
Well, are you talking about the cereal or are you talking about the roast flour?
The roast flour. Roast flour. The cereal, I think we'll get to. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
The honeycomb, did you?
I can't hear you.
Honeycomb, the honeycomb.
Honeycomb.
Honeycomb, the honey.
Yeah, we left the honeycomb a while back. Go ahead.
No, yeah, we talked about last week. Did you brought some?
You're very, very, you're muffled. I can barely hear you.
you brought some today to the shiur, honeycomb.
Oh, I didn't bring any for this year. No. It's still in my pantry there. I didn't finish it. Okay. So the point is that this grain, you could make it into a let's read this inside. I don't remember if we went to it last time. But grain that did not get a third grown yet, that they roasted it. And then they ground it. A thick grinding. So now it looks different than regular kamach. This is the difference between the first case and the second case. The first case, you cannot do large amounts because it might lead to doing large amounts with regular kamach, which is a problem. So therefore, it's only allowed ma'at ma'at. Over here, because it looks different, it's tchina gasa, looks different.
But the first one, you don't have any tchina, it's a whole grain, basically.
No, not whole grain.
Huh?
Kamach koli. Kamach means flour. But over here it looks different, and therefore they let you do even a large amount, as long as you do a bli laraka. Sherry kachoil, it looks like sand. This is called shasisa. You're allowed to mix it with vinegar. Vinegar is just an example. That's what they used to mix it with. But the same doesn't apply to anything. Ushiyarach, as long as it is a loose mixture. But if it's thick, then it's also because it looks like lush, not lush midaraisa, but it looks like lush. Even if it is loose, you have to make a difference in the way you add it. How is that you first put in the shasisa and then put in the chametz? First the solid and then the liquid.
So this would certainly apply to cereal.
I'm not so sure.
Why?
The intention of cereal is not to make a mush. The intention of cereal is to eat your cereal and finish it off and not be left with the mush. The mush is an unintended consequence of children who don't finish the food.
That's what I'm saying. There's absolutely no problem with cereal. If you can do this, you can certainly have cereal even if it goes gluggy and turns into one mass.
Why?
Well, so over here we're talking about a coarsely ground roasted grain, and puffed wheat would certainly be that. In fact, it's not even ground.
What about Cheerios?
So Cheerios are big things. So that is certainly much bigger than grains of sand.
Yeah, but when they
if you make a firm one, so it says that if it's loose, there's no problem. If it's firm, there is a problem. So for a start with Cheerios, you'd have to add a small amount of liquid and leave it for a long time.
No, maybe just the kid who drinks the liquid leaves a small amount of liquid in it.
But then when you put the liquid in, there was no problem. When he drank the liquid, there was no problem. The byproduct of that is a byproduct of that.
I hear you. Yes.
When you put a large amount of liquid in, you certainly haven't done a malacha.
I hear you. Yes.
It says that the commercial is edible, like to put in the oven to do halacha.
I mean, you put it in the oven. That's what kamach koli means. Koli means roast.
And then, like,
go ahead.
It said like adding more, like adding, sauce to it, like it's ready to eat, even without it. But usually, just kamach nobody eats. But if it's gonna be like a roasted grain, it's more we consider like something that's edible.
I mean, it does seem to me that they
the
roasted the
first
grain.
one is actually roasted grain, and the other one is actually talking about thinner, grounded.
Both of them are ground. Both of them are kemach. Kemach koli and tvush levi shlish kolu oisa, v'chagach tochen oisa.
Because in the first Sherpa doesn't talk about tchina, so it's just take it as is grounded in advance. On the other one, I say like you roasted and grounded. And the other one doesn't say about doing grounding. That's not clearly, so a little bit. Honestly, I was thinking they're talking about more like whole grain that giving into a texture that actually flour. For example, the second one just about the grounding. First one doesn't say anything about grounding. So.
That's what kemach is. That's what kemach is. Rabbi say everything we've been learning until now is only according to one opinion. The second opinion is going to be expressed in the Mechaber in Seif Tes Zayin, which is coming up. But I do want to read the Alter Rebbe first, who explains this opinion that we're just learning now. Okay, ya ba 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 ba, ya ba 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 bye bye. Haloshu Mavis Malachas Tes Zayin. Haloshu Mavis Malachas. Kneading dough is one of the primary categories of labor forbidden on Shabbos by scriptural law. You're not chayiv by adding water alone until you mix it like you would during the week. Shigabel means to mix it. All right? Lisha is kneading, gibel is mixing. One is only liable, actually he translates it here as kneading. Okay, I don't know. Only with things that can be effectively kneaded. Could go in kamach, for example, flour, offer or earth, the titchal binyan for the purpose of mortar. Aval efer, however, ashes, v'chol agas, and thick sand, umursan, and bran, right? Bran flakes, you know what I'm saying? Bran, that doesn't really stick together. It's just like the shell of the grain. The kemach koli.
I don't think you can say that about bran flakes. Bran flakes are have bran in them, but they're not necessarily all bran.
Exactly, but if it would be 100% bran, it wouldn't stick together effectively. Because the bran is just like the shell of the grain. It's like the little thing on the part of the popcorn that doesn't pop. You know what I'm saying?
So it would be like making mud.
No, it doesn't mix like mud. Mud can mix. You can make mud that's.
Oh, so it's like water with sand. Okay.
This is like it's like ashes. The kemach koli and roasted grain, similar things. Lav b'nei gibul hein. They are not b'nei gibul. I'm a gablan potter, and the person who does gibul is potter. Again, this is according to most Rishonim. There are to most Rishonim.
So Alter just called the Rishonim. It's not like his opinion.
Right, he's going to bring the other opinion later. He's first giving you this first opinion. Sorry? Where? Where do you see that? He's coming, he's going to say the second opinion later.
Okay, so this one is just for the Rishonim.
However, it is asur midrabanan to be megabel a large amount of kemach koli. Maybe you'll end up needing unroast grain and you'll become chayav. You're allowed to do it in small amounts. Even if it's thick and it looks like lush, nevertheless it's permissible because you're doing it with a shinui. Remember, it's really a double shinui. The fact that it's not a bar gibel, that it's something that does not mix well, according to this opinion, and also the fact that you're doing a small amount. However, leniency is granted regarding grain that did not reach a third of its full growth, that was roasted and then ground coarsely to consistency that is like sand. This is called shesisa. You're allowed to mix it with vinegar and similar things, even a large amount at once. I just want to read note 72 because it's very important if you have it in the Alter Rebbe. In the case of ordinary roasted grain mentioned above, it is forbidden to mix large amounts of it with liquid, even if making a mixture with a loose consistency. Although both ordinary roasted grain and shesisa cannot be effectively kneaded, and therefore only rabbinic violation is involved in both instances, the rabbis rule more stringently regarding ordinary roasted grain, since it closely resembles unroasted grain. Okay, that's only if it is a loose mixture. Badei HaShulchan 130, Shomei Arani. I'm just reading the Badei HaShulchan here that he quotes, states that one must add all the liquid at once when making a loose mixture. If one pours in the liquid a little bit at a time, he will be making a fixed mixture, which is forbidden, and then diluting it. Shabbos Halacha states that one should be strict and only consider a mixture loose if it can be poured. Okay, that's another point. What is considered loose? If you pour it, if you can pour it, instead of needing to pick it up.
Even things that are, I don't mean to play, whatever, but even things that are very thick will eventually move slowly but surely. The oatmeal that's thick. If you tilt the thing, slowly.
Well, I mean, the meringues will tip out also, but they'll tip out as a piece of salad, as one piece. It'll just be a blob. It won't be it'll just fall out. Gravity.
Different stages, but even very thick, thicker than very thin. Thicker than the thin we're talking about won't fall out as a blob. It'll fall out slowly, much more slowly than what's bli arak? What's the together? How fast they have to fall out? See, I'm making rice cereal. Did we ever answer the question about making quicker oats with Kli Shlishi?
Rav Fokish doesn't hold of it. He says it's a Kalei Bishul. Maybe some disagree. I just know what he says. I'm just reading here in the Dirshu. Belila Raka hi Isa Shidalila Daya, that it is loose enough, but even she'efsher, but even in a way she'efsher la'aroisa mikli l'kli. You're able to pour it from one kli to another, alpha pisha in the noises, even though it's not liquid. You understand?
Easily go.
If you're able to pour it, he considers it liquid.
Pour. It's gonna go as soon as you tilt it.
I don't know.
According to the Chazon Ish,
5 times slower with a thicker mixture.
you're not allowed to make matzah meal with milk or something on Shabbos during Pesach. So you can't take matzah meal and mix it with, say, milk, like a cereal.
Why are you saying the Chazon Ish? What does the Chazon Ish have to do with that?
It says that the Chazon Ish explains that that you're not allowed to do that.
I mean, the Mishnah Berurah discusses that, but I don't remember the Chazon Ish about that.
Well, that's what it says in my notes here. When making a small quantity, you can make even a thick dough, as with roast flour. On why?
The Mishnah Berurah discusses that, but let me finish out there. But we'll get back to that.
Okay.
But a thick mixture you cannot do because it looks like lush. Unless you do it in small amounts, like we said before. So small amounts works for this as well. Even loose, to make a shinui. A little bit of moisar basach, you're doing a lot at once. Kated, how so? Nois and Asashasisa, you first put the solid in the liquid. If it's a place that they normally put the liquid first. Sorry, if that's what he normally does. It appears that what is significant is the prevailing local practice and not the person's individual practice. Shabbos Kalach. You do whatever is the opposite of what the normal way is. And his Piskei Dinim based on Shabbat rules that if there is no established custom, we should put in the shasisa or other solid food first and then pour in the liquid, which is what the Gemara says to do. Yesh Chok. Sorry?
Is the opinion of the Shin is the Rama opinion or? במקום שרגילים בכל היותר של תפילה יתנו בשבת החומץ תחילה. יש גימל, ואני לא באמת רק זה בין כל דרך סתירמה בעצם, אבל המדרכה מרבידים שזה סתירמה.
The Ramah says, the Ramah just adds that you should change according to the minhag of the place. That's all the Ramah is adding. The idea of changing the order is in the Machaber. Ramah says if you're in a place that normally puts the solid first, then you have to switch into the liquid first. Just adding that point. Some argue on all of this. No. Other Rishonim. Yeah. Yeah.
There's no Achronim on this opinion?
No, we're not up to that Achronim yet. I'm not saying there's no Achronim. I'm not up to that yet.
It's the most Rishonim.
Yeah. The Mishnah Berurah brings them. I'll tell you who's who in a moment.
So we know that when there's Machaber and Rishonim Achronim going to the Achronim, but when there's two between two Rishonim, going to women Machriya.
In this case,
if there's no rule about it.
I mean, there are rules. Chaber has rules. Ramah has rules. Tosfos, the Rif. Chaber likes the majority of the Rif and the Rambam and the Rosh.
Wow, note 81 in the Alter Rebbe is interesting.
Just one moment. Just want to see who says what. The Rambam holds that Bar Gibel is potter, and the Rishonim that say it's Chayev is the Tosfos, the Ravid, the Rashba, and the Ran. Okay, Vishchok calls us some argue on all of this. What do they say? There is no difference. Here's the Chiddush that I mentioned before. The Tosfos says that if it's Lav Bar Gibel, you're Chayev just for putting the water. Or any of the liquids. Even without any mixing. Putting the water is the Gibel. Exactly. This is Rebbe's opinion. Excuse me. Tosfos is different. Tosfos says that even Rabbi Yehuda agrees by Lav Bar Gibel. This is the opinion that Paskins, like Rebbe, that adding the water alone is enough to make you chayiv.
If you're adding the water, that you'll be higher.
I understand, but he's saying it even if it is bar gibel. So he's paskining like Rebbe, who says that adding the water alone makes you chayav.
Also, only on bar gibel, you can add bishino. According to the source, something is bar gibel, you're allowed to add bishino. Correct?
Right.
Tosfos is more limited on bar gibel.
Correct. Elam ken hagibel hu rach. Not sure if we have
But
time.
Rach and Kasha, there's nobody that holding this Kasha is Mutar. Bishin or Bishin. There's no people holding the Lila Kasha.
No. Unless it's Ma'at Ma'at.
Not on Lila Kasha, Papa?
But Ma'at Ma'at and Belila Kasha if it's not Bar Gibel.
You're allowed to? Lila Kasha?
Yeah. Alter Rebbe just said it.
Kasha, it's all Aslu, no?
Now it was Ma'at Ma'at.
Where we say them so that I miss it?
Rafila Magibel hu Av v'Kasha v'Nira Kelosh. The Alter Rebbe in parentheses. Kivin Shemagal v'Shinui. And then I'm talking about Napa Gibel. And then the next piece, Elam Kin Magal Mat Mat Kmosh's Barbakali.
Oh, this is according to the opinions that holding that the Kali is not Bar Gibel.
Correct.
But all this, because all this, the La Kasha is on seems that it's not Bar Gibel basically according to the first opinion. Because all this is a Lobne Gibel. Therefore, Pater, Avalas Midah is suffering. And then being that even if it's going to be take one. So talking about Lila Kasha, it seems that it's not Bar Gibel. And Bar Gibel is not going to be allowed. Correct? Or not really?
One more time, you're asking according to the second opinion.
No, first opinion, Lila Ava, it's Mutar and things that is not Bar Gibel.
Yeah.
But things that is Bar Gibel, according to the, is only on Raka. So Kasha is going to be only on not Bar Gibel. But according to the second one, it doesn't matter Kasha Lava or Zila. There's no point to allow to do any texture. According to the second one.
We haven't learned it yet. Let's see.
Because it's by adding water enough, it's already be higher. So it doesn't matter if you're adding a lot or a little bit. According to the second opinion.
No, that's why the Mishnah Berurah, that was the whole chiddush of the Mishnah Berurah. That if it's kemach koli, so then it's mutter because it is
no, but according to
it's
the
edible.
opinion, is you don't define between Bar Gibel and not Bar Gibel.
I understand that.
You can add water, that's it. So there's
I
no
understand that.
place to ask if it's Bila Raka or Bila Ava. If you're adding water, you're already higher.
That's not true. Belila Raka is a shinui in the way you're adding water. He says right now, Elem Kain, Agibul Urach. Shazen Kanisha Klal. The Ein Israel Amri V'Seifrim. V'Teir L'Tzech Shabbos L'Adei Shinu She's Bor. Bein B'Doram Shem B'nei Gibul, Bein B'Doram She'enan B'nei Gibul. L'fikach Bein Koli Bein Shesisa also Litin Behem HaMashka B'Shabbos Afilu B'Shinui Derech HaChol. Elem Kain Agibul Rach. Shaz Mutter Lin B'Shinui. And I didn't see it Tchilo Achar Kach HaChoymes, Malkam Shezeh Shinui. V'Lama Hu Shal Pachol Shinui.
It means that they have nothing else to eat,
No,
or it can be even for dessert purposes.
no, it makes no difference. Either one. Shnoisim B'Shinui Mutter L'Gabla Fil Hara V'Asachas came in Shu Gibul Rach. Av Gibul Av also B'Chol Edyin Mishum Losh. Elem Kain Nasa Namashke Kfarm Bo Yoim. Also Mutter L'Gabla B'Shabbos Ma'at Ma'at Bein Mekoli Bein B'Shesiso. According to those authorities, the only exception is when the mixture is loose, in which instance there is no concept of kneading at all. Such an act is only by rabbinic law. When such a mixture is necessary for Shabbos, license was granted to do it by deviating from one's ordinary practice will be explained. This applies both with regard to substances that are ordinarily needed and some that are not ordinarily needed. Therefore, it is forbidden to pour liquid onto both roasted grain shesisa on Shabbos when one deviates from his ordinary weekday practice instead of loose mixture. In that instance, it is permitted to pour the liquid in when deviating from one's weekday practice, to put the shesisa and the vinegar in place. That this constitutes a deviation or do the opposite, or doing the opposite because it's deviation. When he makes the mixture with deviation, it's permitted to mix in a large amount at one time, since it's a loose mixture. If, however, it is a thick mixture, making such a mixture is forbidden in all instances because of the prohibition against kneading. Unless one poured in the liquid while it was still day, in such an instance, it is permitted to make an extra on Shabbos, mixing small amounts at a time. This license includes both roasted grain and chassisa. All right, we'll have to continue tomorrow. Yeah, note 81 is important, but I don't want to do it quickly. We'll get to it tomorrow.
It seems to have the answers for what to do practically.
Yep, but we have to get to it tomorrow because we also have to understand the reason for it. All right.
Thank you very much. Good night.
My pleasure.
Can understand we have to be strict according to the Alter Rebbe. It should be.
Okay, good night.
Good night. The Alter Rebbe is going to paskin to be strict, like the second opinion. That's the Ramah's opinion, and that's what the Alter Rebbe is going to paskin, based on the Trum Sadeshin. But I imagine the Sfardim are lenient. I don't think the Mechaber brings down that opinion at all. I think it's only the Ramah. Yeah. Oh, no, he does bring it down. Sorry, he does bring it down. He does bring it down. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. I have a lot of homework for tomorrow. I hope I'll be able to get a handle on everything and be able to give you some clarity.
No, by the way, in the future, if she knows that you're on the right, can you let